Ashnod Flesh Mechanist might be completely absurd. I actually forgot to read the cards, so let's do that now. Ashnod Flesh Mechanist is a 1/1 legendary human artificer with Death Touch for 1 black. It says whenever she attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, create a tapped Power Stone token. It also says you can pay 5 and exile a creature card from your graveyard to create a 3/3 zombie artifact creature token. As long as you can feed the Ashnod machine, you'll be getting a Guardian Idol on every turn Ashnod attacks, except it can't turn into a creature and you can't use the mana on anything except artifacts and abilities. The problem that you need to solve here is how to feed Ashnod reliably in order to attack and sacrifice creatures to make Power Stones, and then have enough artifacts in your deck to make use of all of those Power Stones you'll be making, since you can't use that mana on anything else. My problem is how to pull that BS off while adhering to a budget. So to solve this commander, I want to start with the mana package here. Ashnod is insane ramp. You should be regularly making 7 mana by turn 4, which means we don't need any of our traditional ramp pieces, so you can leave your signets in the box. Mana Silex, Mystic Skull, and Prophetic Prism all say pay 1 and tap to add a mana of any color. This is an ability that your Power Stones can pay for, and you basically money launder that mana, making it free to use for other spells. But the best card of the deck, and the winner of the totally original and well thought out Golden Coconut Award, is Inspiring Statuary. It's a 3-cost artifact that says non-artifact spells you cast have Improvise. Improvise says your artifacts can help cast those spells. Each artifact you tap after you're done activating mana abilities pays for 1. So if you cast a creature spell, you pay the black mana and then tap 2 Power Stones, not for their own ability to make mana, but for the improvise ability that the creature has thanks to Inspiring Statuary, and then cast the non-artifact spell. Like the video if you like what you see so far, and sub if you want to see more later. Now that I have your attention, let's talk about the creatures. This is simple, smooth brain magic. Use cheap creatures, creatures that leave behind creature tokens, and creatures that reanimate themselves to fuel the Ashnod machine. The creatures you pick here don't really matter. The only reason they exist is to be dumped into the graveyard to be turned into batteries. Mursire, Carrier Thrall, Nested Shambler, and Doomed Dissenter will leave creature tokens behind when they die. Blightmound will give this effect to every non-token creature you control and create a pest token when they die, as well as making those pests a little bit bigger and harder to block at the same time. Bloodsoaked Champion, Cult Conscript, Dread Wanderer, Endless Cockroaches, Persistent Specimen, and Tenacious Dead will all bring themselves back to your hand or the battlefield if certain conditions are met and you pay the cost. The paid reanimation abilities can all be paid for with Power Stones. Then of course Solemn Simulacrum to very easily get a land and draw a card in the same turn that it's brought out. To help make creature tokens and maybe help those creatures win the game for us, we're including the Inquisitorial Rosette to make creature tokens and give our creatures menace when we attack. The Inquisitorial Rosette and Ashnod's ability will trigger at the same time, so simply choose to make the token first and then sacrifice it to Ashnod's to get easy Power Stones if you're low on creatures. Mimic Vat will either get you a copy of one of your opponent's better creatures for 3 mana, or give you token copies of any of your garbage creatures to feed Ashnod. And again, the Power Stones can pay for this ability as well as the artifact. Now with all that power at our fingertips, what artifacts should we use them on? Well, back in the Brothers' War, all they did was make big anime Gundams to fight for them. Today, we have vehicles. So I threw in big tanks like Thunderhawk Gunship, Night Paladin, Thundersteel Colossus, Untethered Express, and the Goliath Truck. Each of them have relatively low crew cost, which is easily taken care of by our creatures. Although I couldn't help myself, and I included Metalwork Colossus since we have a handful of equipments that will give our creatures trample, making him a much more dangerous threat. To pilot our vehicles, we're sticking with what Ashnod knows best, and that's zombies. Jadar, Ghoul Caller of Nephalia, will give us a Decayed Zombie if we don't already have one by the end of our end step. Liliana's Devotee will make zombies bigger, but more importantly, let us make a zombie for 1 and a black if a creature died this turn, which it should. Ghoul Color Gisa will let us pay a black, tap, and sack a creature to create X/2/2 zombies where X is the sacrificed creature's power, and the big deal here is that the sacrificed creature can be a token. But, I mean, if you sacrifice the Metalwork Colossus and then bring it back by sacrificing Power Stones, that can get out of hand pretty quick too. Open the Graves is an enchantment that will make a zombie when a non-token creature dies, but my favorite one is Death Tyrant. This 4/6 menace monstrosity says whenever an attacking creature you control or a blocking creature an opponent controls dies, create a 2/2 black zombie token. You can also pay 5 into black to return it from the graveyard to the battlefield tapped, which our Power Stones can help pay for. Now, any zombies that we lose in the attack are replaced with new zombies, as well as any blocking creature that an opponent controls. This also means when one opponent attacks another, if any of the defending opponent's creatures die, we get zombie tokens. Cool, right? I really like Death Tyrant, even though it's so expensive to play. To help with our artifact combat focused game plan, we have a few artifacts to help boost our commander as well as our creatures. Swiftfoot Boots gives Hexproof and Haste, Haunted Cloak gives Vigilance, Trample, and Haste, Chariot of Victory gives First Strike, Trample, and Haste, and Vorak Battlehorns give Trample, but will only allow one creature to block the equipped creature. All of that trample is there to help our big guns get through, and all of those equip costs can also be paid for with Power Stones. Since we'll be swimming in mana, we need card draw. Transmogrant's Crown is a budget skull clamp for all of our dying creatures. Idol of Oblivion will let us draw a card when we make a token and has a late game benefit of giving us a 10/10 Eldrazi for 8 mana. Smuggler's Copter will let us draw and then discard a card. Mighty Servant of Luck O will let us draw 2 cards if we crew it with 2 different creatures and it deals damage to an opponent. But a 6/6 with built-in trample, I'm really not sure why this isn't played as much, but that's just me. Weatherlight will let us look at the top 5 cards of our library and put a historic card in our hand. Most often, this will be an artifact in our deck. Midnight Reaper will do the same thing for non-token creatures, and Grim Haruspex is the nicest of the bunch, since it lets us draw a card when a non-token creature dies, and it doesn't punch us in the face for 1. Undead Augur will let us draw if a zombie we control dies, but again, we get punched in the face for 1 life when we do. Now, Ashnod is only a 1/1, and once your opponents have any creatures up, it'll be harder to attack and still keep our commander. There is the option to politic with your opponents to just let Ashnod get through, since the goal isn't commander damage. Maybe they'll be nice to the young lady and let her smack them in the face. But if they don't, we have spells like Kaya's Ghost Form to bring her back if she's sent to the graveyard or exiled, Gift of Doom to give her indestructible at instant speed by sacrificing a creature. Agent of the Shadow Thieves is great here since it makes her a bigger threat and gives her indestructible at the same time whenever she attacks. Well, whenever she attacks the opponent with the most life. Armor of Shadows, Feign Death, Professor's Warning, and Unlikely Aid will all give her indestructible at instant speed. Rush of Vitality can also give one of our big boys lifelink if we're paying too much life to draw cards, or our opponents have smacked us back before we've grown our zombie defenses. We have a splash of recursion here, but it's split between creatures and artifacts, so it's very inefficient. Buried Ruin, Emergency Weld, Mer Retriever, and Cryptek will get our vehicles back to working order, while Altar of Baal and Moira Urborg Haunt will get our better garbage creatures back if they're taken out, or when we throw them away. Our removal cards are Feed the Swarm, Go for the Throat, and Infernal Grasp, which is, of course, nowhere near enough removal, but I'll talk about that in a second. The last few miscellaneous cards I have here are Shadow Alley Denizen to give our vehicles Intimidate when a black creature enters the battlefield, and Planar Bridge because why not if we're making absurd amounts of mana. When we plug it into TCG Player, we get a total of around $43.18 to buy this version of the deck. Now, this deck is absolutely not as good as it can be. Being budget really limits what options we have to reliably do what this deck is trying to do. Protecting your commander, drawing cards, taking out your opponent's stuff, and winning the game. This version of the deck does work well enough, so now the goal would be to take the list and replace some pieces with stuff from your own collection to make it better and more efficient if you like the idea of the deck. Hangerback Walker and Ophiomancer are better token creators. Bloodghast and Gravecrawler would be better recurring creatures. Thornbite Staff would let Ashnod take out threats and still be able to attack during combat. Skull Clamp could replace Transmogrant's Crown for better card draw. Reaver Titan is a beastly vehicle to end games with, and Biotransference would let you cast creature spells with your Power Stones and make Necron tokens to feed Ashnod at the same time. This deck is really weird, and I think it'll need a lot of testing to find the weak spots and the right balance between all of the spells that we'd need to have a deck that does what it's supposed to do reliably. Anyway, that's Ashnod Zombie Tanks. Let me know what you think and how you'd build Ashnod Flesh Mechanist in the comments below. Like the video if you liked the video, dislike it if you disliked it, and until next time, I'm Space Coconut, and you're welcome.